Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. I'm not gay. So this video is about the fact that they sabotage me. Now, how does this overkill that I'm Christ? We have Matthew 5:10, right? Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Also, Paul's letters. You have more than one place. One place says, all who wish to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. We see in the New Testament, no servant can be greater. If they persecute me, they'll persecute you. Whoever doesn't pick up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Matthew 10:22 was one of the main scriptures I used to cite all the time in my videos back in 2014 or so. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. You will be hated by who? By everyone. Everyone. Because of me. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. We also have Isaiah chapter 63, right, where it says the Son of God sees that nobody was there to help him, and he was appalled. Now, Jews might argue that that's referring to something else. Even if it is, that's like saying, that the Bible is referring to Harry Potter at Disneyland instead of Christ in reality. Okay, even if it was, the idea of Christ in reality, me, the top martial artist ever possible, the Royal African Falcon, top martial arts, king of kings, heterosexual, transcendent, what have you, is a greater idea. And that's what people should be focused on. It's that simple. So we see also in Hebrews, it says, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And we see many other examples in the Bible as well. Samson, John the Baptist, Stephen the martyr, etc. Daniel in the lion's den. So the question you have to ask yourself is, did I live a life of being persecuted? Well, first of all, we have to ask ourselves, would they persecute the top martial artists ever possible for being part black? Would other races be jealous and mad? Would Asians, right? Some of them. Would white people? Some of them, right? The rich ones, the racist ones who exert more power than the others, right? From every race, even black people to some degree. There's people who don't like me because I show them up, and by far. In all humility to God, these are the facts. And I should not be worried about whether or not you think I'm cocky. I should be worried about telling the story, right? Especially when they make it harder for me to talk and I have limited time in these videos. So the answer is yes. And I was persecuted. And this video is about my life from 1981 to 2012. The first 3 years of my videos, although 2 years and like 3-4 months, right? Because I started in August 2009. August 31st was my first official video. And I had like a video response or something before that I took off because I looked weird, what have you. Okay, so ever since I grew up as a brain surgeon's son, people were giving me a hard time. Even when I told the story, they changed my voice to make it so I sounded weird. So I sound weird after the fact. So they changed my voice to some degree at the time, but they drastically changed it after the fact, if I remember correctly here. One way or another, I sound a lot weirder than I remember. And so we see that the evidence of persecution is even in my videos as they change the way I look. Now ask yourself, what's the difference between changing the way Pee Wee Herman looks, or George Bush, or King Charles? People look weird already to some degree. Frat-like, what have you. And the most handsome person ever lived, the top martial artist ever possible, you just know he's going to be handsome because he conveys righteous intensity in his martial arts strikes, and that is shown in the face. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is they're hardly sabotaged. I might even help them out in a sense. But we see them as the main benefiters of the overall sabotage, people like that, so they look very stupid, don't they? Very dumb. But when they sabotage me, they keep attractive females from seeing the most handsome person ever. They try to keep people from rallying to me, what have you. So clearly, I'm the most sabotaged person in human history. And we know that I'm the top martial artist ever possible because of my top martial arts challenge. And I have thousands of videos across various platforms, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and more. I even mentioned my challenge on Tinder and places like that, where there's females who know guys who do martial arts. They see the money. Some, they need the money. I even put on bumper stickers. And people were afraid because they knew they would lose. It's like, a little wiener dog trying to take on a leopard. It knows it's going to lose. and it doesn't want to lose, and they know that the challenge has various implications. I'm not a racial supremacist, but a lot of people see it as a racial thing to some degree, and they don't want to represent for their race and lose. Just like you see these boxers with these flags. Again, I'm not a racial supremacist. I think it's a very petty way to look at it. I'm a moral supremacist. There's some people that see it in terms of religion. Some people see it in terms of, social status, in terms of honoring their martial arts school, and they all know that they would lose. So almost no one accepted it. And everyone who did lost, and by far. And in one case, a flawless victory. And keep in mind, I was sabotaged, fumed and poisoned, etc. the whole time, and I still beat every challenger. So we see that sabotage proves my point. Now, growing up, right, going to private schools, eventually in high school, I went to one public school, I went to a Christian school, reform school, a boarding school, okay? There were people in psychological operation units trying to keep me down. Now, when we look back at that, what was more important? For them to keep people in grade school from being impressed by me? Or maybe the teachers, people in high school, college? Okay, and to some degree they were by the time I was 16. When I was younger, I was kind of a basketball star, so people were impressed. They thought I was cool the whole time. But they kept me from having a cool haircut. My dad would cut my hair. It wouldn't be that good. Okay, the black barbers were far away. I lived in a county that was like 2% black, Santa Clara County. And I had trouble finding clothes that fit and looked good. And so quite often I looked bad. And ironically, some of the times I looked good, it was when I was wearing a Dickies, kind of Crip outfit. Okay, when I had my hair in cornrows and, blue rubber bands, maybe wearing a white tee with Jordans on and jeans or something, things like this. But for the most part, or at least to a large degree, I looked not so good quite often. And that's because I was sabotaged. Now, when you look at the opposition view, were they smart to do that? No. Especially when we look back at it. A huge part of high school and college is looking back at it. When people look back at it and see themselves as some kind of privileged worm whose group sabotages other people to try to look better, they feel very stupid. And they know damn well everyone sees it that way. Even the most racist conservative sees it that way. So when you look at them having sabotaged Christ, and the churches sitting there twiddling their thumbs, mosques, synagogues, other groups, Freemasons, people who knew what was going on, how stupid do they look? They were people sabotaging people while looking stupid while they do for a bootlicker's pittance. Well, I'm the sabotage top martial artist ever possible. The English royals, symbolic of colonialism and neocolonialism and extreme privilege. Do they look good? No, they look dumb. The Jewish internationalists, the international financiers, the globalists, whatever you want to call them, corporatists. They look like arrogant Lex Luthor scum mixed with Dr. Doom and Magneto. They look very stupid, mixed with a circus and Freddy Krueger. So when we look at this situation, not only is it clear that I'm Christ, it is painfully obvious that I'm Christ. You don't see other people describing things this way. You see them tail tucked, representing for their culture. People in the military, right? They represent for military culture. They don't transcend that. When's the last time you've seen a military vet transcend being in the military? It doesn't happen. Or a police officer. We see people break down into groups. I'm not trying to insult them. I'm trying to clarify what's going on here. It's best for everyone, including those ladies and gentlemen who are in the armed forces and the police, what have you. And I'm not kissing up to them either. I'm being fair. Okay. So by the time we get to 2009, I've been shunned by women for the most part. I mean, to this day, I've had 2.5 years of relationships, including short relationships altogether, and I'm 44 years old. And for the last 2.5 years, that was the time, which it wasn't, because I've been shunned for 8 years straight, completely. Okay, that would be 41.5 to 44 to the day I turned, it was worse than that because it'd be a little over 41.5 to the present day. And all those years before, I would have been shunned if that's how it played out, but it was over time. And it was quite often there was many years went by when I was shunned. You remember, brain surgeon's son, tall, dark, and handsome, had the most handsome picture ever on the internet at one point. For many years, I didn't have that good of a picture on the internet, but by the time I was 23, I had a very handsome picture that went beyond everyone else. You could tell I wasn't rich, but you could tell I was healthy, handsome, not pretty, but handsome. In a way, handsome, son of God, good looking, righteous looking. By the time it was 2014, I had the most handsome picture ever possible. Unbelievably handsome. The facts, not being cocky. I'm almost out of time here, so let me wrap this up here. So in 2009, I start my videos. By that time, I was drinking heavily because my ex-fiance kept leaving and coming back, and I already had a pretty bad drinking habit from when I was started drinking heavily, probably about 20 years old, 21, when I was able to buy it without having to go through people. And so by the time it was 2009, I wasn't 29, I was actually about to turn 28. So I was born in 81. So I was recovering from alcohol. I'd quit earlier that year. Maybe I said it a little wrong earlier, but I apologize if I did. I actually quit earlier that year. I wasn't drinking at the time, but I looked like I had been. I looked bad from drinking for years, right? And I quit on May 6, 2009, and I quit drinking for like 7, 8 years or so. Went back to it for a couple of years, quit again, and I've been sober since at least 2019, 2018. So I've been sober again for about 8 years. And before that, I was sober for about like 9 or 10 years. Okay, so I never really was an alcohol. I used to drink beer. I didn't drink. I wasn't alcoholic in the terms of drinking hard liquor all the time. I'm running out of space on my phone. Let me wrap this up here. So, in 2009 to 2010, 11, and 12, I was scrambling to make videos quickly, kind of like now. But I had my brain hacked. I was fumed and poisoned. They're trying to get me to the psych ward, stuff like this, and it was interfering with my ability to think. Okay, sometimes I was, I smoked weed. Sometimes I was craving weed. I smoked weed to take care of my broken heart, maybe about 2 grams a day. For someone my weight and height, that didn't affect me that much in terms of long-term brain damage, but it did have an effect. And I'd also smoke hashish a little bit here and there. Okay, and once in a while eat an edible or something. Okay, now there's many people who are doctors who smoke marijuana, so it's not something you can say interferes very much. And I haven't smoked weed in a long time, probably since 2017 or 18. So I've been sober from marijuana as well for about 8 years or so. Okay, so in 2009, 10, 11, 12, that was my Illuminati series, 200 parts. Took me 3 years to complete it, give or take 2.5, whatever it is. And I was working on other series. My Nigerian Crisis series was not so good. It was rushed. I was trying to prove my point that there was a great conspiracy, and I rushed through certain things. Okay, and I do not regret posting them because that's part of the story. It's more important